Yo, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thane Growth. It is Friday. Happy Friday, guys. It's Friday. Carlin's second favorite F word.
Right? It's actually like my fourth or fifth. I've got faith, family, fortune, the F word I can't say on our podcast.
Gotcha. Okay, so there's a couple. So it's like your fifth favorite F word. Got it.
Yeah, dude, Friday
All right.
Friday is exciting because of the podcast, but other than that, I'm just like I'm so pumped about every single day. Like I get to wake up and work with some killers. Like,
Oh my gosh,
am I
dude,
allowed to
I
say
totally agree. I'm not over exaggerating that when I say, like, I literally wake up every day and I feel like a little kid in a candy store. I feel like I'm getting on a bus and I get to go on a field trip to the zoo and go see elephants every single day. It is literally the best thing in the world.
Yeah, Oakley missed the bus this morning, so
Oakley,
whoops.
did Oakley skateboard to school?
No, James is actually home for the day. So I'm sitting here, I'm talking, like I'm on the phone with you and a couple like our other business partners. I'm sitting there, I'm like listening to him, listening to this conversation, how everything's going. And I look up and the bus is there and I'm like, oh crap. And
Must kind of snuck up there, huh? Went all
yeah,
stealth on you.
I get so excited, dude. I love talking to my partners and I'm just so excited about it all the time, and I completely lost track of what time it was. So it's like, well, crap. Darn it.
That's the amazing thing about building a company with the right environment, with the right culture behind it. Because one common thing that seems to be very prevalent in our conversations is the fact that anytime any of us get on a call to have a company meeting, to have a
2
business meeting,
minutes.
yeah, we're like, hey, 2 minutes real quick, guys, blah, 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 blah. And it turns into, an hour-long thing. Or if we have a scheduled hour-long meeting, it goes out to 2 hours sometimes, just because we've got so much going on. We've got such an amazing dynamic and such a really great company culture that the people that are in this with us have made it so enjoyable. I literally feel like they're just the luckiest person in the world to be in a virtual room, with everybody. It's literally the best thing in the world.
Someday we'll all be in the same room.
I agree. I'm going to get everybody up to Alaska. That's my goal. I'm going to move the entire team.
Why? No.
We're going to come up to Alaska so that we can share an office together, Carlin. Then we can all go to the gym during lunch, and then we can, go do some other cool stuff.
How about you come down to like the normal part of the country where I don't have to worry about a moose?
Dude, we're going to go move in with Ken. For those of you guys who don't know who Ken, thank you for being here, by the way, brother. Friday is my favorite day. For me, it comes twice a day, or twice a week, rather. I like to think that my Mondays are Fridays. That's how I go. That's how I, like, mentally when I wake up, that's how I approach Mondays. And I don't know, it just does something for me. So I get to tell everybody, you know what? I'm fortunate enough. I don't have Mondays. I get to have Friday twice a week. So it really sets a good tone for my week. I really love it. But Ken, for those of you guys who don't know, Ken is an amazing individual. He is a very successful investor up here in Alaska. He just purchased a $19 million property in Alaska on creative finance. So, and I've been through, Ken and I went and walked this property together, and it is literally so amazing. It has like they call it a Peter Pan room.
Jesse.
And it's literally like themed like Peter Pan. It's like a big Captain Hook ship is in the middle of the room. It's got bunk beds and stuff all over. And it's like the Lost Boys almost, in a sense, in a lot of ways. It's really, really cool.
Is it the one from Zillow Gone Wild?
The one from Zillow, bro. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Jeff says my favorite part of Fridays is right here. Thank you, brother.
If you guys have never checked out Zillow Gone Wild, go look at their Facebook page.
Pansy, thank you for being here. Pansy is our newest addition to our team, and she adds such a lovely presence and energy to it. So thank you so much, Pansy. Thank you for being here. Fredward, good to see you here, buddy. I missed you. We haven't talked in a while. We need to jump on a call. Guys, I'm really excited to get into today. We had a really amazing week. We started our last cohort of the year on Wednesday, and we have a full house. And it has been the neatest thing. We've made some awesome and fun changes that I'm really excited for, some of which have already, begun. And this week we're starting on goal setting and why dreaming big is so important. And we're going to spend the rest of all of next week focusing on building goals and getting super, super clear on goals and letting everybody know that it's okay. You got to dream big. You have to dream big. Anything less, you are shooting yourself in the foot. You have to put stuff on paper, guys, that is way far and above and beyond what your current capabilities are. And trust me when I say this, because I've been through it. I'm a practitioner of this. I used to set goals that were based on what I thought I could accomplish. And when I wrote something down in my head, I was like, oh, okay, cool. This actually, I think I can do this because I see the way there already. Mm-hmm. And if that's how you guys are also setting goals, then I'm going to tell you that it's wrong. Completely the wrong way of doing it. And that's what we're going to get into today of why it's wrong. But before we get into that, let me kind of take you back a little bit. I want to share a little bit of, what it was like for me growing up and Carlin growing up as well. I grew up in a small town in a place called Ryrie, Idaho. Surprised the main road was even paved. There was like 525 people, I think, is what was on the population sign when I was growing up. A big farm town. And growing up, I never thought much of myself. I never had a lot of confidence. I thought of myself as probably average when it comes to intelligence. And I grew up just average, guys. I grew up in an average home. When it came to thinking about big goals and having big dreams, my dad and my mom were always very encouraging of that. But also at the same time, their idea of setting big goals and big dreams was, Jesse, you need to go out, and if you can get a college degree, you can get a white-collar job, and you can work your way up to earning $100,000 a year. Bro, you have it made. $120 a year, can't even fathom that. You might as well be Donald Trump or Warren Buffett or Bill Gates. Bill Gates was the richest person when I was growing up. So that was always kind of guy. As far as I was concerned, guys, the way that I was taught to think about money and goals and success was, if you got $100,000, man, you and Bill Gates should be living next to each other. That's the way I was thought to think of $120,000 a year. So that's how I grew up. I grew up treating money. Many of you guys have heard me talk about this. I grew up treating money like a four-letter word. If you guys don't know what a four-letter word, Carlin was talking about it for not Friday, but the other F word. It's a four-letter word, right? Cuss words. Cuss words are four-letter words. So it's a perfect analogy because we didn't talk about money. You didn't go ask somebody how to make more money. You didn't ask somebody how much money they were making. That was very hush-hush. It was very private. But similarly, if you want to learn how to make more money, Carlin, what do you need to be talking about?
Bigger goals, bigger dreams.
100%.
I think that's where it starts. I have this cute little acronym because, us military folk like these. You can't see it. It says BIG. Beyond Imaginable Goals. When we grow up, you think that you have to, exactly like you said, you think you have to have these small little goals where you're like, I could do that. Like, I'm going to get a degree. I can do that. That's a practical goal. Maybe I'll get a PhD. 8 years, I can do that. And then you get to this world where people are like, I'm going to buy 100 properties this year. You're like, what? And then there's the next person, I'm going to buy 100 properties this quarter. You're like, oh, wow. Okay. All right. Put me in, coach. Like, I want to do that.
It's a completely different mindset, isn't it?
It's so different.
It's interesting you brought this up. You're raised to go to college, get a 4-year degree, and then I'm going to work my way up the food chain, and then that's how I'm going to make $100,000 a year or $120,000 a year, right? And the problem with that, guys, is that you can see exactly how you're going to do it. That's the problem. You set this goal and you're like, okay, I'm going to graduate high school and then I'm going to go right into college. This is the college I'm going to go to. I'm going to spend 4 years here. I'm going to go get $80,000 in debt and get a degree in underwater basket weaving. And then I'm going to start at the bottom of the freaking totem pole. I'm going to hopefully get to a point to where I can pay off that $80,000 and, hopefully make $120,000 a year.
I actually really considered being an underwater basket weaver. I was like, go find some seaweed, weave it all together.
You'd probably do all right. I would assume it's a very niche clientele.
Yeah, the problem is in New Mexico, like there's not really a whole lot of water, so I'm not sure how I'll handle that part. Like
New Mexico, all beach, but no water.
No water.
Yeah, it's kind of a problem, isn't it?
Yeah,
you guys do have the luxury of being able to say, I'm going to go step out back and family's going to go to the beach today, though. So that's pretty dope.
I'm going to go play in the sand and not drown.
Yeah, there you go. So guys, if you want to learn how to make more money, like Carlin said, you got to be shooting bigger. And you know what? The conversations you need to be having need to be based around money. If you want to get better at playing guitar, you're not going to go spend your off time learning how to bowl. If you want to get better at skateboarding, you're not going to go to the gym and spend all your time playing basketball. So why do you think, Carlin, when it comes to making more money, having conversations that are centered around how to make more money, why do you think they're deemed in such a negative light?
It's scary. I mean, a good portion of us grow up with this mindset that, it's like you said, you make 120K a year, man, you're hitting it big. I remember when I was trying to figure out how I was going to make money, I was looking at degrees. I was like, what is something that makes like 70K a year, but is something I might actually enjoy? Maybe, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And so finding like that medium, you're frantic, you're trying to figure it out, you're listening to everyone else, they're saying, oh hey, I'm going to college here, I'm going to college here, I'm doing this. And I'm not saying going to college is a bad thing by any means, but when you have these bigger dreams and these bigger ambitions, you have to like weigh your pros and cons. Is your degree going to be beneficial for your bigger dream? In that case, go to college, do it. But there's so many other things. I actually spent a lot of time over the summer, this last summer, volunteering at the local zoo just so I could see how they worked it. Why? Because my big dream is an elephant sanctuary. There's nobody in their right mind until I got into the real estate community and the big dreamers. Anyone I'd say that to, I'd be like, yeah, I really want an elephant sanctuary. Oh, you mean you want to go visit one? No. I want to open my own. I want to develop it. I want to have an established thing that has been made by me for these animals. Does it have to be just elephants? Of course not. Who am I to say no to a jaguar?
We don't discriminate against penguins. Bring them in.
I don't. I'll make a whole new enclosure for you, baby. You just waddle around happy. But when those little steps, and I think this is important, when those little steps are part of your big goal, do that thing, because big goals don't just happen overnight. They happen very, very slowly, unless you've got connections that I don't know about, which in that case, beam me up, Scotty. I want those. It's a process. It's slow and time consuming, and you got to put in a ton of energy and a ton of effort, but it's worth it, because I would so much rather look back at my life and be like, I made an elephant sanctuary. I took my kids around the world. I saw cultures do their cultural thing, and it was a great time, versus, yeah, I worked a W-2 and I retired at 65. I get about $3,000 a month, so I can afford food and a mortgage. Like, that doesn't sound like life. That sounds like survival. I want to be living. And having those big goals, even if I don't achieve them, which by the way I will, you're still doing things that you wake up and you're excited to do.
Did you guys hear the conviction in that? If nothing else, man, we're gonna have to go back and make like a a reel out of that or something, man. Like, by the way, I will. Like, that was awesome, man. That's exactly how you should be speaking your goals into existence. I love that. Thank you very Jeff says, "Oh, I love that." Yeah,
You
that was
guys,
awesome.
you can't ride my elephants, but you can come pet them.
We can feed them. Do elephants eat watermelons? Is it like hippos? You
They
throw
do.
them.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I was actually thinking about just growing some watermelons. I'm clearly good at growing watermelons.
Clearly. Obviously. Now, Carlin, when did you always have this dream, or was it something that kind of came about as your perception, your self-development started changing, your mindset started changing, and you looked at things like, oh my gosh, you know what? Not only is this possible, I think I'm going to actually do this.
It was kind of
Like,
an
where did that
interesting.
transformation happen between how you grew up and what that standard of thought was for what was possible and what you could do and who you could become and the money you could make compared to where you are right now? Like, where did that transition happen?
So it was an interesting transition. That official transition happened about 2 years ago. Up until that point, ever since I was a kid, I knew that I wanted to be working with elephants. How? Didn't know. If it meant just like go walking them around, like taking care of them at a circus, I was going to do it. I went through the idea of being a zoologist. I went through the idea of being a biologist. I went through the idea of working, just even being a cleaning crew at the zoo. I've gone through that. Like, wanting to be around elephants and around animals that we need to be protecting, that's always been something that's been important to me. And about, I'm going to say about 10 years ago, I started developing those dreams. I was like, man, it would be so cool to just have my own zoo. I would put a ton of room for each one of the animals. They would have all the space they need. Like, I know more about things that I probably need to sometimes, honestly.
So you were either going to build an elephant sanctuary or Noah's Ark, it sounded like.
Somewhere along those lines, yeah. I went to
Somewhere
the
in
Ark.
between.
Yeah, I went to the Ark in Kentucky, and I stood there and I was like, yeah, I could probably do this.
There you go.
Easy.
The elephants will just come at that point. You don't need connections.
Yeah, I know. If I do it the right way, I put the door down and they just show up.
There you go.
Um, yeah. So about 10 years ago, I was like, I started developing those dreams because I'm gonna say my mom has never limited my personal beliefs. Like, when I was a kid, we'd look at houses and she'd go, "Oh, what do you think those people live like? How do you think? What about those? What about those things over there? Could you imagine bringing life back to that?" Like, my mom's a dreamer, and so I've always been a dreamer.
Mhm.
Which up until about 2 years ago, I didn't realize is something I could leverage to my benefit. And so 10 years ago, full circle, 10 years ago, I was like, okay, wouldn't it be cool if I could do this? I had no idea how or why, or I just knew that I could like feel it in my bones that that was something that I liked the idea of, but
Mhm.
there was no foundation, no understanding. It was just a dream.
Mhm.
2 years ago, I came into this community where there were people with money, there were people with motivation, there were people with connections, land, all of the things. And I put that dream out there on the sub 2 page one time. I said, look, this is what I want to do. And the amount of people that responded and said, hey, when you do that, let me know. I will give you money for that. I will help you find the land for that. And I think that's a highly undervalued thing to do. Like, you don't think about putting your dreams out there because everyone's always so afraid, like, hey, if I put my dreams out there, then someone's going to tell me it's stupid. Yeah, somebody might tell you it's stupid. So what are they doing? But when I put it out there, just the amount of support and the people that said, you know what, I'll help you do that. Paula Finlayson, one of my favorite people. Her
Mhm.
and I both have awesome elephant collections. So we'll get a new elephant and we'll send a picture, like little jade elephants, little wood carvings. She's my elephant go-to.
That's
So
awesome.
just finding the people that are excited about your dreams, excited about your passions, that's when everything starts transforming.
That is very interesting. And it only can come about, you can only find those people if you're willing to put yourself out there.
Hmm. What about
So
you,
how does
Jesse?
that bigger pardon?
I want to hear yours though. Let's hear yours. What's your big dream?
Oh man. My big dream is always changing. My goals are always changing. It's kind of like me and you talk about that Matthew McConaughey thing, right? Where he was like,
Yeah.
tell that story for everybody who doesn't know it.
Oh, in I guess the summary of it. So someone asked Matthew McConaughey, "Who's your hero?" And Matthew McConaughey responded, "Me in 10 years." So 10 years goes by. That guy comes back to Matthew and he says, "Hey, are you your hero?" And he goes, "Not yet. I will be in another 10 years." And he just does that every 10 years. He's his new hero. He's achieving his new hero. He wants to be his hero. And I
Mhm.
think that's something to aspire to be like is I'm going to be my hero in 10 years.
I totally agree with that. And to answer your question, like that's where I'm at right now. Like I feel like me personally, our business and then my real estate business, like everything is like taking massive incremental leaps that I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like my goals are always changing." And not even in a 10-year increment, like much smaller than that. We were talking with James earlier, and James was the one who said this. And James has been with us for how long? 5 weeks?
About
Maybe six
about that,
weeks?
yeah, somewhere around there.
Somewhere in that ballpark, I think. And just in that small amount of time, in the way that things are going, even James was like, dude, like the amount of work with the vision that we have for this, one amount of work a day like equivalates to like 3 weeks of work for most people. And that's the type of incremental steps and leaps and bounds that I'm going through and that we're going through, that it's like, oh my gosh, like me in 10 years, I'm like trying to figure out who the hell my hero is gonna be. Me next week. That's my freaking hero, man. You ask me next week, and it's gonna be me in another 7 days, man. Like that's how crazy it's going right now. But this is only possible. This only manifests. This only comes about and makes itself come to fruition by daring to dream big, by telling people about it. And if you have an idea on exactly how you're going to do that, then you're nowhere near thinking big enough. Actually, as a matter of fact, where my journey first started in this was thinking differently, thinking bigger, was when my wife was in nursing school. That was probably the hardest time in my life, in my marriage. We had 2 kids while my wife was going to nursing school. So she had school Monday through Friday, and then she had clinicals on the weekend. So for those of you guys who don't know what clinicals are, that means that basically she would go to school Monday through Friday, and then she would have to go like do a practical or work at the hospital basically as kind of like an intern Saturday and Sunday for 12-hour shifts. And where we were living in Phoenix, she'd work at various hospitals, but we lived on the in a town called Surprise, which is the northwestern corner of Phoenix. And dude, Phoenix, I've never lived in a city like Phoenix where you could drive from Surprise, which is the northwest corner. It's the city like closest to Vegas
Yeah.
as you're leaving from Phoenix to go to Vegas. It's the last part of Phoenix you go out of. But I've never lived anywhere where you could drive 80, 85 miles an hour for an hour and a half and be in the same freaking city. So
Yeah.
crazy. But anyway, so my point in sharing that was my wife would work, sometimes she'd have to drive on the other end of Phoenix. So she'd drive for an hour there, work 12 hours. Sometimes there was, she'd go over a little bit, and then she has an hour commute back. So for 4 years, it was me by myself and raising 2 kids and trying to, hold together a house and all this stuff so I could support my wife. And it was the hardest time in my entire life. And I was a full-time college student as well. So there was just a lot that was going on, but one reoccurring theme that came back that came back to us, and she actually wrote this on her graduation cap, and it still serves. If there was a mantra for my family, it would be this: if your dreams don't scare you, they aren't big enough. And so when you feel uncomfortable talking to somebody, or when you feel uncomfortable saying, I want to make $100,000 a month, or $1,000,000 this year, or $5 million, or $1 million a month. When you feel uncomfortable saying that, That is the universe. That's like everything coming together and telling you good. That's the level. Once you've hit that point to where you're like, wow, actually, this actually feels kind of uncomfortable. This is actually kind of scary because I have no idea how I'm going to do it. I have no idea who I need to bring into my circle to accomplish this. I have no idea the type of person that I need to become in order to achieve this. And once you set yourself to that level, it'll really get you thinking differently. It'll get things stream. It'll get you from A to B so much faster. And that's one thing that I've learned as an entrepreneur is when you set goals that big, it also alleviates you of a lot of the like the mundane stuff. The stuff that is, if is there anybody here? Let me see in the comments real quick. Is there anybody in here that suffers with shiny object syndrome? Let me give you guys a couple seconds to respond. I want to see if there's anybody who suffers with it. Because I know personally that's something that I went through. And I know a lot of other people do, especially once you start getting into real estate. It's like, oh my gosh, there's so many ways to go about making money. Josh says yes. I love it. Josh, thank you for being here, bro. Him and I always talk. He's a good guy. Pansy said yes. Brandy. Pam says yes, but reeling it in.
That's the best point.
That is the best point.
I
did, but I'm reeling it in.
I love the reeling it in. When you
shoot, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you catch yourself and you're like, oh, this is what I want to do. That moment, just like, oh, it's like walking outside the first day of summer. You're like, this is it.
It is, man. It is. And you can imagine, like, as you're building your business, when you have a very clear vision on what it is you're trying to do, it also brings a lot of clarity to the caliber of people that you need to bring in to fulfill that vision. Now, when it comes to setting goals and having a vision, that's the problem, is that most people don't shoot big enough. Most people aren't where they are, Carlin, because they set this target. I think here's a big misconception. You talked about sharing a goal and it being so big that they're scared to either fail or they're going to get criticized or they're going to start second guessing themselves or whatever, right? And so they're afraid to really shoot big because they're afraid to fail on it. And it's interesting because most people who actually fail are not the people that set these astronomical goals and shot up there and just missed the target. That's not the people who are failing. Coincidentally enough, contrary to popular belief, this is not the issue. The issue is that people set their goals so low. They bring it down to what they think is realistic, what they're capable of. And at that point, you might as well take a target, like a gun target, and you tape that bitch on the floor and you shoot it dead in the bullseye from point blank. That's what ends up happening. You're not where you are because you set your target so high and then you just shot up there and completely missed the target. You set your target so freaking low and then you hit the bullseye. And that hamster wheel of low quality and low caliber thinking is what keeps people from ever really stretching themselves and understanding what they're truly capable of. Thank you for sharing that, Angel. I actually had a wonderful text message from our previous cohort this morning, coincidentally enough.
Sorry, everybody's out to make me cry today. My eyes got a little bit watery with those messages. It's like, oh. I was going to say, so, I mean, it's safe to assume that most of us know the story about Pace's bunnies, right? Like the story about the bunnies. Yep. So I think taking that story, and I think I want to say find the elephants now. Like, those are big animals. If you want to, you could find a whale. Eat the whole whale.
How has finding the whale or thinking big, finding the elephants in this regard, how has that changed you as a parent, Carlin? Do your
Okay.
kids grow up with the same limiting beliefs that were put on you?
I'm gonna come back to that question, and I
Okay.
think the first thing is um, everyone needs to understand what we mean when we say "eat the whale."
Okay.
Feel free to explain that one. That's an Alaska thing.
It's an Alaska metaphor. Yes.
It's an us metaphor
So
based from Alaska.
correct. Correct. So I don't know if okay. I'll just explain it. So we have a saying in our company that's eat the whale, use the whole part of the whale. And where that came from was there is the Alaska natives up here. Um, they get certain freedoms because they're Alaska native that nobody else gets. So like they can hunt whales and kill whales and things like that. Like where somebody else, in order to do that, might have to jump through hoops or get some sort of uh, um, what's the word I'm looking for? License or something like that. I don't know because I don't hunt whale. But my point being is like when the natives up here, when they kill a whale, what's really interesting is they're not just killing it and using parts of it or using the blubber for this or the meat for this or whatever. They literally use every single part of that whale. And so as Carlin and I have built this company, and as we've kind of expanded our vision for it, we've taken that same thought process. Like there's never when you're thinking big, you also got to think about how do we use the entire whale. So it's kind of like, and I've seen a lot of people do is like and I'll make it relatable for those of you guys who are. I assume most people watching this are in real estate. So for example, a good example of doing that would be, let's say everybody needs more money, right? Everybody's looking for more private money. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had where I have called a seller and the seller tells me, I ask them questions about why they're selling, what it is they're trying to accomplish, all these kind of things, and then I'm solving that problem. Not only am I solving that problem by being able to buy their property or help them avoid a foreclosure, whatever. Once I have a bigger understanding of what it is they're trying to do, I'm also looking at opportunity differently. I'm also trying to figure out how else can I help solve this individual's problem and where else does it align with what I'm trying to do in my business. So you might, as an example, you might help that seller avoid foreclosure, but you might also come to learn and understand that that seller is also wanting to take that money and they're not quite sure what they want to do with it yet. Maybe they want to invest it in another property. Maybe they want to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if you're doing this right, if you're communicating and articulating yourself correctly, there's been so many times where I've talked to sellers and I have pitched them on becoming a lender for me. And they're like, yes, I've actually got a couple recordings. I'm just stashed away somewhere I could share. But they're like, oh my gosh, yes, no, let's do that. I would love to do business with you for sure. So being able to approach that specific scenario as an example with the end already in mind, what is the result that I'm trying to do big picture wise, not just, I don't get caught up in the process or the details of this one conversation. I'm also looking at what are my goals? How big are my goals? What is it that I need to accomplish my goals? So every single person that I have a conversation with, I'm learning more about them, what it is they're trying to do, so I can figure out where I can best serve them that's in alignment with what I'm trying to do. So again, we're using every piece of the whale in that perspective. Did I hit that right, Carlin, or is there anything else that I missed
Nailed
that
it.
you'd like to kind of touch on?
No, I think that really, and just so you guys know, that is actually the first time we've shared why we say that. So I think it's kind of cool to be able to use that analogy and put it into context because whenever I think of something, my brain isn't like, oh, that's not going to work. It's like, okay, how can I eat the whale? How can I use the whale on this? And it really helps just take that and reframe it into a way that it's like, oh, you know what I could do? I can solve it with that, 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 that. And it helps with the creativity process. It helps with context. It helps with finding a solution for someone else or for me or whatever it is. It just makes so much sense. And so you had asked how I use that with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
So to start at square one, I have one daughter who wants to be a marine biologist. Specifically, she wants to study sharks. I have so many books on sharks because of this. Okay. And then I have my other daughter who wants to be a paleontologist. So, first of all, one thing that we really emphasize in our household for anyone who has two girls, it's like war all the time. But they have a bond and camaraderie that is unparalleled. Like their relationship would make like the army's camaraderie look like a joke. Like they are each other's like foundation, they're their
Ride or
safe net.
die.
Yeah, they are ride or die all day. And so it's really interesting being able to learn how to have goals and how to do things with them, because with one wanting to be a marine biologist and the other one wanting to be a paleontologist, we like to
Mm-hmm.
put ideas in their head.
Yep.
Not in a like a manipulative way, but like they have entrepreneurial spirits by trade. Like that is they make more money selling lemonade than I think it's not even funny, dude. It's not even funny. So, with the things that they want to do, at no point have I said, you can do anything you want to do. I don't say that because that sets really unrealistic expectations. What I do tell them is, you can do anything you want to do as long as you do the work.
Mm. Wow. Okay. I love that. It's a
So,
very subtle change, but it's the change that makes all the difference.
it is because when you tell kids you can do anything, then they go out and try and do anything, and then they're
Mm-hmm.
shocked that the thing they want didn't happen. So when you're telling them you can do anything, but you have to do the work.
Yep.
Jasmine wants to be a paleontologist. Lilith wants to be a marine biologist. The bottom of my bookshelf, right there,
Mm-hmm.
that's all their books on paleontology and biology. And they come in here and they read those. If you ask either of them, you could ask Jasmine the history of the female paleontologist. She has a book specifically on female paleontologists. What?
I'm not sure what Angel means by that. Do that, Mike Carlin.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, I thought
Angel.
you might. Sorry, Angel.
So I don't know what that means. Um, yeah. So we've got books on female paleontology. Lilith, ask her. I dare you. Ask her anything about the ocean. She knows about jellyfish. She knows about sharks. She knows
Mm-hmm.
about what people are researching currently. Oh, mic drop. There you go. She knows about all the things and all the stuff. And I love just I've had random people say something and she just
Uh-huh.
goes off. Like she's on it. She knows. She's like, "Oh, you want to know about megalodons? Let me tell you." I'm like, "Okay, there you go." So I kind of like interweave them together. I'm like, "Hey, if you want to be a paleontologist and you want to be a biologist, you guys could actually like boop, like bring those two things together and you guys could have your own thing." They like going to museums. They love going to museums. Like, yeah, natural history museum for the paleontologist. I have 4 girls. That is amazing. There's
That is
just
really cool.
so many cool things, but you have to guide them and you have to encourage them in the right way. If my kid told me she wanted to be a dinosaur. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if Oakley wanted to be a dinosaur. Be a dinosaur, buddy. Just make sure you know what kind of dinosaur you want to be. Make sure you know the bone structures, so make sure you know what you need to eat. Do the research. Be a dinosaur. I don't care.
So
Be a
they've got the
dinosaur.
work down. They clearly love it. They're getting in, they're reading books, they're involved in it. You've been so instrumental, it sounds like, in creating that foundation and that learning. Has any of that, and I know you've done a lot of entrepreneurial stuff with them as well. Like, how has their financial literacy changed, or how has it been different than how you were raised?
The lemonade stand kicks my ass every time. So for context, guys, when I say my kids are entrepreneurs, they are by trade. I am the person that sells the lemonade for them because somehow that ended up being my job. They don't pay me, so it's really quite unfair.
You got an internship at their lemonade stand. That's so
I
awesome.
I do. They even have me making it. It's the best part. But they pay for the lemons, they pay for the sugar, they pay for the ice, they pay for the cups. And it all started because James and I gave them a loan of $35. That's it. We gave them a loan of $35. They paid us back
Oh, it was a
45.
loan.
It was a loan.
Okay.
They paid us back $45, so we got interest. And they have since made over $400. They do their lemonade stand 2 times a week. They have reoccurring customers. They know.
Oh
They've got the marketing down. I take them to Walmart to get their supplies, and they actually let people know in Walmart. They say, hey, we're having a lemonade stand today. This is where it's going to be. This is what we'll have. And Lilith is the master of upsales. Like, if you guys need to learn how to do an upsale, talk to my 7-year-old. Because it's not even funny, dude. Like, it's not even. Like, someone will be like, oh, I'd like a cup of lemonade. And she goes, oh, we're selling chips too. What kind do you want?
You're gonna want something to wash that lemonade down with.
Yeah, it's not a question of, oh, do you want chips? It's what kind of chips are you going to buy?
I love that. Genius.
It's like, oh my gosh. So there's absolutely no reason to set their goals and their expectations of what they can do with their life on a low level, because at 7 years old, they are learning things that I could only dream of at that age.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's fun. It's so much fun.
It is. It is. And well, think of what the compounding effects of that are going to be as your kids continue to get older. That is so awesome. Sorry, we can't. If you guys are watching this through with in one of the Facebook groups, there's a link right above where you're watching this video. There might be even a little bit of a description, so you might have to scroll down a little bit. But there's a link. It says, "Please click this link to grant StreamYard access to your Facebook name," or something like that. If you wouldn't mind clicking that link, we'd love to know who we're interacting with. I know you can see it on your end, but for some reason, it doesn't show up on our end. Well, so that is so awesome. I have a 12-year-old that is chomping at the bits to have a business.
My good friend, Facebook user, sit down with your kid and figure out what your 12-year-old is passionate about, and then start brainstorming how you can get a business going.
Dude, Carlin, I love that, dude. I love that. No, you're absolutely right. And I started doing the same thing with my kids. You know, it's funny because your kids are watching everything that you do, even though you don't think they are, they do. They watch everything that you do. And it's so important to make sure that you're setting the example. And what I mean by that is, I would assume if there's any parents in here, how many people, throw in the comments. I want to see how many people are in here that are watching this are parents. Because I know personally as a parent, like I said, I was raised to think average. I was raised to shoot for the low. And growing up, and I love my parents. I love them more than anything. Growing up, that was the standard that was set. And growing up, I used to look at my parents and think, oh my gosh, they know everything. They are my heroes, and they still are. But there comes a time when you're growing up, you find out like who your parents really are. You see, because when you're growing up, at least for me, when I looked at my parents, I didn't see them struggle. I always saw them as like the superheroes that they were. But then as you continue getting older, you eventually see them as more of the human. You see the faults, you see maybe some of the limiting mindset beliefs and things like that. And it's interesting how all of that stuff kind of transfers and manifests into who you are and who you can become. And if you're watching this right now, and I thank you guys for commenting on this. I see we got a handful of parents in here. The biggest advice I can give you guys from parent to parent, don't be a hypocrite. And what I mean by that is, I'm sure most of the parents, if not all you guys in here, can relate with what I'm about to say. We always want the most for our kids. We always want our kids to be better than we were. We want them to be set up better than we were. Don't be the parent that tells your kids that they can do anything as long as they put the work in, but then you are the one that's selling yourself short on your dream as well. Don't be the one that's setting goals that are down here. Don't tell your kids you can do anything and be anything you want in this life. And then don't be the hypocrite. Don't be the one where as your kids get older and as they start to see you in a more human aspect, they see your faults, they see your limiting beliefs, they see, those things. Don't be the one where they look back and be like, oh man, I appreciate my parents. I love my parents, but I can also see where they were shooting too low as well. So for them, set that example. They're always watching. And it's so neat. It's so neat because like Carlin, I've started doing some of these stuff with my kids. And I remember the first time this happened 2 years ago. I had he was 6 at the time. I think he was just getting ready to turn 6. He lost a tooth and he came and found me and he's like, hey dad, I just lost a tooth. And I'm like, Miles, that's awesome, buddy. What are you going to do with that money, bro? He came out. He had $1. He's like, Dad, I got $1 from the tooth fairy. And he just woke up. I just gotten out of bed. It's still cold in the house. And he's got bed head and he walks up with $1 and he's so happy. And I'm like, dude, this is amazing. I'm like, Miles, what are you going to do with that $1? And I'm sitting here thinking he's going to, Dad, can you take me to Walmart? Can we go get a candy bar? Can we go to the gas station? I want a drink. I want blah, 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 blah. And you know what he said to me, guys? This was totally out of the blue, and this was completely unprovoked. He said, Dad, I want you to teach me how to invest it. How do I make more money with this $1? And I was like, say what? I was like, bro, there's no way. Like, I'm so proud of you. This is absolutely amazing. And so what I ended up doing, I kind of started getting a little more intentional as my kids started paying attention. And I started getting more intentional with involving them in some of the things that I'm doing. Occasionally, you guys might see me if you guys come to some of the Zooms that we have going on, where you'll see my kids jumping on my lap and like they're involved with it. They understand it. They'll tell my wife all the time, Mom, I'm in a business meeting. It's the funniest and it's the cutest thing. Like they have up their phone, they're talking to sellers, and it's funny. But so what I ended up starting to do, or what I did after my son told me that he wanted to learn how to make more money, I ended up going and buying a book. And this is where Carlin and I, we love involving our kids with what we're doing and the books and the information that we're giving them, and really making sure that they understand the concept of money and things like that differently than how we did. Because when I grew up, if I wanted to make more money, or if I wanted money to go to the football game later, then I would go ask my dad, can I have $10 to go to the game tonight? And what's he going to say? Yeah, but you got to go out and pick weeds. You got to go do the dishes. You got to, go vacuum and clean my car, go, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he's giving me a list of things, because in his head, he's like, well, Jesse's got to work for it. You got to trade your time for money. That's how money works. So what happens to Jesse as Jesse's getting older? As soon as I get to the age where I can get a car, what else do I have to go do now? I got to go get a job. So now I'm going to school and I've got to work. And then what happens when you graduate high school? The next step, my thought process, right? I got to go trade time for money. I got to get to $120,000 a year. Well, in order to do that, I've got to go to college. In my case, I ended up joining the military and going to college while I was in the military. But as my kids grow up, I don't want them, when they need money to go do something, I don't want them to be like, Dad, I need some money because I want to go buy this car, or I want some money because I want to go buy this toy, or I want to go buy a 4-wheeler, or I want to go, do whatever. I want them coming to me saying, hey, Dad, I want to go get a new 4-wheeler. The one I have is too small for me. What do you have for me to invest in? And with that thought process in mind, I want my kids to be set up and know how. I don't want them to ever have to. Let me be clear real quick. They do chores because they live here. But I don't pay them to do chores. I pay them to read books. Books in our house is currency.
Yep.
When my kids want a new 4-wheeler, or when they go to the store and they want a toy, or what? Now let's be honest, like, kids are kids. It's not like my kids are out here like entrepreneurs and businessmen. Like, kids are kids, right? They still have kids' thoughts and do kids' things, and we freaking love it. But when it comes to money, I'm involving them more into what I'm doing, and I'm setting the standard really high for me so that I can bring them along with me, so that they can shorten that learning curve. And so now we're at a point to where when they want things, they know that, hey, I've got to go read 20 books if I want this. And then they get that thing. And then I pay them to read books. And then now I'm at a point to where I'm taking my kids' money and I'm investing it. They're Gator lending for me. I think we had a deal that I think we're closing on today. I think we got another one that we're closing on next week that we need EMD, or that we used my kids' EMD for. So I'll go borrow $100 from my kids, and I'll put that into the EMD that they're helping to Gator. They're helping to fund. And then when we close on it, they get $300 back. So now they get into that automatic mindset of, that's how I make money. I have to invest it. I'm not going to save it. I have to invest it. That's where their thinking is now. It's not, hey, Dad, can I go do the dishes or pull weeds or mow the lawn or do the other thing? That's the automatic thought process that my kids are in now. And they're shooting for big things. I want them thinking bigger. I want them uncomfortable. I want them being able to say, hey, you know what? This is what I need. I need $5,000 so I can go buy a new 4-wheeler. This is how I don't know exactly how I'm going to get there, but this is the path. I'm going to go ask questions. I'm going to go da 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 da. And it's been really neat, not only from a financial literacy aspect to see the impact that this has had on them, but also from a mindset perspective as well.
Did Miles lend on Kentucky for us?
He did. Him and Emery did.
Oh, shoot. I didn't know that. Oh, beautiful. I just want to add on to that. They have really creative ideas too. So let me show you something, Jesse. You can't really see what it says, but Jasmine drew this. It says, so frank and cute. Okay. So she got this little notepad. You can see the little piece of paper. So I was in her room last night and I was looking at some of the stuff that she was drawing. She had a picture of two little girls standing side by side, holding hands, and a little blurb, like a little word bubble that said, little people, big ideas.
Oh man, I love that.
I'll send you a picture of it. I was just like,
do it.
Oh, they watch so much and it's so much fun. I can't wait until we get our kids together. They're gonna
I'm excited.
more likely than not beat the crap out of each other, but it'll be fun.
Dude, it's just an amazing journey, guys. And you really have to put yourself in a very uncomfortable position to be willing to think big, to jot down bigger goals. And when you do that and you're surrounded and you're intentional with the people that you're bringing on board, the conversations that you're having, whether that's with a seller, whether that's, with whatever, and you have your eye on the end result that you're looking for, and you're not so caught up in the process, I promise you, as a practitioner of this, Carlin is a practitioner of this. This isn't just theoretical stuff that we're coming in here and talking about. This is our own personal experience. And it's why I'm at a point now where I'm just the leaps that I feel like I'm making and the growth and the self-development that I'm having and the reflection that it's having on my business. I wasn't kidding when I was like, dude, like I totally get where Matthew McConaughey was coming from, but it's like, it's crazy because Carlin, even in 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, the goals that we've set have changed several times based on the momentum and things and that we're doing. And it's like, dude, like we set our goals too low on this. We need to go bigger. We need to go bigger. We need to go bigger. And I feel like in a way it's like, dude, my hero is me in 7 days. Like that's the types of leaps and things that we're making here. And the byproduct of being willing to put yourself out there and to be uncomfortable and to think big and do big things, even if you don't know exactly how you're going to do it, good, because you're not supposed to. But look at the quality and caliber that it's going to have on your life and your business, your relationships with your partners, your spouse, your children. It's such an amazing journey. And I will say it every day, dude. Like I am so grateful. I literally feel like I'm going on a field trip. Like I wake up with that much excitement every freaking day. I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Carlin. Thank you for being part of that. And thank you for being here. And everybody here watching, thank you for being part of this with us. Thank you for giving us some of your time and being here and contributing in the comments and in the conversation. And thank you for the friendship that we have. And I'm very grateful for it. From the bottom of my heart, I'm very grateful and appreciative for each and every one. This is where my true passion is. This is what I love doing. Investing is cool because that's where the money is. That's what's really going to financially set you apart. But this right here, this is what I'm really, truly passionate about. This is what I love doing. I love the people aspect of what we're doing. And it's really amazing. So I'm thankful for my team. I'm thankful for all of you. I'm really appreciative that we get to do this. So Carlin, do you have anything before we jump off? Any final last words?
Did you say final ass words or final?
Yeah, final words.
Oh, okay. All right. I do. So you can't really see it, but this picture frame is actually a picture of an elephant and its baby. I think it's important to note that having visual representations of your goals is important. I've got elephant statues all over my house. I have a poster board with all of my goals and my visions. And I've got pictures of elephants everywhere. It's important to have those visual representations of what you're trying to achieve, just as a nice reminder, and it's not just a thought. So that's
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I am can you guys see this? Let's see here. Did this work? Okay, cool. So I couldn't, for some reason, when I type on here, it only goes to YouTube and it doesn't go to the books of the face variety. So I was just scrolling through Facebook here and I noticed that we had an amazing question just get asked in our Facebook from a young lady named Haley. If you guys don't mind, if you guys are not part of the Facebook group, I'd scroll in right here on the bottom. If you guys are not part of the Facebook group, go search for The Growth Co. with Jesse Stanton on Facebook and get in here. Answer that question. I thought that was such an amazing question for what this conversation is today. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Get in there, get in the comments, ask the question. Let's learn. Let's be intentional. Let's grow together. Very appreciative of you. Carlin, thank you again.
Thank you, bestie.
You guys have an awesome rest of your weekend.